fellow Zimbabweans, I wish to come to you today to wish you a happy Independence Day. I wish to say, wherever you are, whatever your political affiliation is, whatever your station of life, this is a great day, our Uhuru Day. Happy birthday, Zimbabwe. Happy birthday to you, my fellow Zimbabweans. I know and I understand that some of you may immediately say, there is no need for you to say happy birthday because of our circumstances. But remember, circumstances do not take away the celebration of the happiness that has to be and that is associated with our birth. I want to say, some of you may feel a lot of discomfort because of the difficult circumstances that we are going through, the difficult times that we've been going through. But through it all, as individuals, as families, as organizations, and also as communities, we are together in your endeavors as you try to eke out a living and make ends meet to sustain your livelihoods. I'm also fully aware that your difficulties have been compounded by the fact that we are faced with this pandemic, the coronavirus or COVID-19, which is threatening our lives and livelihoods in our country and beyond. This has compounded the situation, particularly if we consider the fact that our public health system has been a challenge in cushioning our circumstances. I know that you have not seen or experienced some of these problems that we are seeing. It's clear that the pandemic that we are facing is probably the worst in the recent decades. Since 1918, when the Spanish flu attacked humanity, we have not yet seen the disease or attack of this magnitude. But be that as it may, the 40 years of our nationhood is not a short period, and it can't be ignored. It can't be taken for granted. The attainment of our 40 years as an independent nation is a key milestone, a key improvement, a key achievement. And applied to an individual, 40 years mark the beginning of life. As the saying that says, life begins at 40. But of course, the life of a nation cannot be compared to that of an individual. And this is why it is important and worth recalling that the number 40 itself, from a biblical perspective and from a spiritual standpoint, is very symbolic in number. Not as a judgment point or a day as some would want to see it, but it is a period of trials and tribulations that enjoins all of us to understand that together, united as a nation, we are able to retrospect, introspect, and prospect together in terms of where we have come from, where we are, and indeed where we are going. I want to tell you that 40 signifies a takeoff moment. 40 signifies an exodus moment. 40 signifies a celebration moment. 40 signifies a rebirth moment. 40 signifies the birth of a new promise. So we have to know that the context of these 40 years is such an important one, particularly if we are recalling the significance of this very important day. It is also important for me to just reflect on what the values of this liberation project was or were all about. The values, the principles, the objectives of the liberation struggle included, among other things, one man, one vote, freedom for all, freedom and liberty, equality, land to all. That's why we used to say, mwana wevo, umhlaba umhlabathi, umntwana umhlabathi, jobs for all, umsebenzini to all the people, mabasa kumuntu wese. We used to emphasize prosperity. It was independence that taught us that yes, once we have attained it, it meant good jobs. It meant housing for all. It meant accommodation, a decent roof above our heads. It meant healthcare. It meant a stable economy. It meant a good infrastructure. It meant a great nation. It meant a great team, a warriors team, not team Inobayo. It meant free elections. It meant a non-partisan armed and police force, our police services. It meant our independence was supposed to be not just in form, but in substance, in the ideals that we have to pursue, in the ideals of happiness, the ideals of freedom, the ideals of justice, and the ideals of rule of law. It is this opportunity that we must take together as a nation for a collective reflection that makes this day the 40th anniversary of our independence. An important day indeed in the country's history. As such, it is with humility that I have the honor and privilege to extend my sincere and heartfelt appreciation on behalf of fellow Zimbabweans to you compatriots, our war veterans, those who fought. Anachimbwido, Makarwa Wondo, Vanamjiba Makarwa Wondo, those who sacrificed their effort, dead and living. Let me say, happy 40th Independence Day felicitations to each and every one of you in recognition of your sacrifices, but also the milestone that we have reached as a nation. It was not easy. It took sacrifice. It took service. It took your commitment. It took your courage. Also took your patriotic zeal, and we acknowledge that. We appreciate that. It was not the mercenary zeal that took you to the Liberation War Front. It was the missionary zeal, because you were clear about what you wanted for our country. And it is clear that over the past 40 years, our country has made significant and remarkable strides to redress the injustices of the past, visited us upon by our 100 years or so of dehumanizing and brutal colonialism. The first or so decades, the first 2 decades of our independence, we had a lot of hope. We had raised national expectations. We had instilled a broad base of confidence in our country. And also our national leadership had moved and emerged from the heroic liberation struggle, laid a very promising foundation for the radical transformation. In the 1980s, I remember that we were all hoping that reconciliation, education, health, agriculture would continue to be our flag bearers as we indicate our places of pride as a nation. In the circumstances, Zimbabwe has become a beacon of peace and stability in the region. Of course, I know that our security forces, there are issues that have been raised around their practice, but in the main, internationally, in the context of the United Nations, we have seen our security forces and services doing a wonderful job as peacemakers, as peace enforcers across the whole world. But of course, back at home, there are areas that we need to correct and sort out. Our police force continues, obviously, to be on the mend in terms of living true to the ideal of being for the country, for the people, and for the law. Pro patria, pro populi, pro lege, as they say in Latin. I must say that our education was exemplary, particularly the education system. Yes, I'm a product of that good education system in the early years, which recorded the highest literacy levels in Africa. That is what we have to be proud of. Our healthcare system used to be second to none. We didn't have to go to China for treatment. We didn't have to go to Singapore for treatment or Malaysia. We were the Malaysia of the time. We were the Singapore of the time. We were the China of the time. And we can go back to those glory days so that we move away from the sorrow days that we're currently having. Our agriculture used to be the best. We used to have the best beef quota to the European Union. We used to have the best milk. We have milk everywhere. I remember when we were growing up, we used to have even milk being delivered at our doorstep in the streets in Masvingo where we were growing. Those are the days, and those were the benefits. Agriculture was seen as the mainstay of our development. We were the breadbasket, not only of Africa but of the world. Of course, we've become a basket case now. It is also very tragic that there is the truth of the 2 decades that we've seen that has to be acknowledged and appreciated, particularly the marginalization of certain communities. The national question has not been addressed, notably Matabeleland provinces, Masvingo provinces, the Mashonal and Manicaland provinces feel marginalized in terms of the mainstream of our politics. In Matabeleland, we saw the massacre of citizens on account of political difference, or on account of labeling and condemning. While those thousands were tortured, some were displaced, and some were actually displaced externally. Untold destruction was visited upon a lot of our people in terms of their livelihoods. You know of the sad chapter that we encountered. Related to this, we also heard another tragic truth, that 20 years of the past, we have witnessed the transaction of politics using violence, using intolerance, using hate. And this continues to be a scourge. I often listen to Zimbabweans when we discuss about our politics. We are still entrapped in the wavelength, in the currents of intolerance. That cannot be. That should not be. We must be a tolerant people. Cases in point of what happened is obviously the land reform program, which is, while very necessary and a necessity, the fulfillment of this fundamental ideal, the goal of the liberation struggle, in making sure that umntwana omhlabathi, mwana wevu, is given dignity, lent to the people. We saw the violent implementation of this important program. Its execution was less than perfect, which bordered on racism. It also bordered on what was unnecessary, unwarranted, and unjustifiable loss of lives. Yes, revolutions always have problems of not being clean, but we could have done it better and smarter. Other challenges that our country, and I must emphasize that as far as we are concerned on the issue of land, there is no going back on the issue of land. Land has been redistributed. What we now need is to move a notch higher, and move to agrarian reform as opposed to just land reform. Let's look at our tenure system. Let's give title to our people. Let's improve on smart agriculture. But also, more importantly, let's now begin to talk about compensation for those who feel aggrieved. Because if we don't bury this past injustice, it's going to linger and it's going to affect us. So that has to be our way in terms of dealing with the issue of land. But also, more importantly, rationalizing our land reform issue through a proper audit system, so that we don't have those who have more than one farm, so that we also have utilization and productivity on the farms. I must also indicate that the other challenges that we have had is Operation Mrambatsvina. It was not necessary. In fact, we have had two main negative operations: Operation Mrambatsvina, Operation Wakavhektra Papi, Operation Nichikorokoza Zapera, Operation Dzokera Kwakabva, Operation Tasangana. All the operations are negative. I recently watched President Ramaphosa launching the recent operation when he was dealing with COVID-19. He indicated that their operation was Operation Save Lives. Let us have positive, operations for once, not negative operations all the time. Operation short sleeve, long sleeve, the 2008 presidential runoff election, the 2017 actions, the 1st of August 2018 massacre of innocent citizens in Harare. All these have repeated themselves in the 14th to 18th January 2019 across the country, where we saw a lot of the human rights abuses. I say this because we must understand that as far as we are concerned, as a people, when we waged this liberation struggle, it was not just about economic independence. It was also about political independence. It was not just about paper freedom. It was also about practical freedom. It was not just about flag independence. It was about practical independence in our pockets, in our homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, everywhere where we are. That independence must speak to us. This is why the liberation struggle was not just an issue to do with getting our land back. It was also a human rights movement. It was a people's movement, because it was about people's issues. It was about a social contract with the people. It was a social contract between the leaders and the led. It was a democratic project. And this is why I want to disabuse this whole thing. To say those who are calling for democracy are projects or puppets of the West. We don't want any master to tell us about our self-determination, about our freedom. We take it from Lookout Masuku. We take it from Robert Mugabe there. We take it from Chiwenga there. We take it from our forebears, Herbert Chitepo, Nikita Mangena, those who fought to make sure that we'd have democracy in this country. Those are the ones who inspire us. Those are the ones who have shown us the way. And that is the way we are pursuing. So we refuse to be labeled when we then raise the need for us to cure and attend to the democratic deficit. Fighting for democracy was a collective project. by all the people. And you will see that now it is being bastardized in our context of our politics. You also see that now everything is literally broken. Nothing is working. Systems are not working. Our people are not working. Our hospitals are not working. In fact, nothing works. I'm sure Vice President Chiwenga appreciates what I'm talking about. We have failed in many respects. We have failed in our areas. We have failed in paying our teachers. We have failed in having world-class infrastructure. We have failed to pay some, in a proper way, our civil servants, to make sure that we go back where our teachers used to be the pride of our professionals. Kwaita headmaster makota ainwiwa ne headmaster. Kurakiza ndwanga wali shasha kana kushangwiti zemunaraunda. Right now, our headmasters are a laughing stock. Our teachers used to be the doyens of respectability in local communities. So were nurses. Taiona manesi ndwanga wali motka. Taiona manesi ndwanga wachikwanisa kuonekwa vani dzimba dzakanaka munaraunda mumaruwa. They were actually supposed to be the champions of achievement because education was rewarded. Right now, what is being rewarded is dealing kia chitsotsi kungoita zvinhu zvisina kuva straight. We have to go back to those days where we used to celebrate those people in the early 80s. I've indicated that we have division in our midst. In fact, our politics is too acerbic and divided. We are fighting all the time on account of politics. We are divided on account of race, on account of tribes. Just to look at how we deploy people in government. How does one tribe dominate government? That has been the story. If it is not the Zezurus, it is the Karangas. If it is not the Karangas, it is the Zezurus. If it is the Zezurus, it is the Karangas. Zimbabwe is bigger than one tribe. We need to make sure that we devolve our responsibilities and authority and representation. Matebeleland is part of Zimbabwe. Masvingo is part of Zimbabwe. Manicaland is part of Zimbabwe. Oh yes, Mashonaland is part of Zimbabwe. We must be inclusive in our deployment of our best foot forward within the judiciary, within parliament, in cabinet, in all the state institutions, so that we are indeed having that national identity, the Zimbabwe word, the collective belonging. This is why it is important to reflect on this past, because I'm just looking at the shared narrative that we failed to have, because we started badly. Our foundation has not been proper. We found our foundation on the basis of marginalization, subjugation and domination, that which we were fighting. We were promised a good promise by our forebears, but the national agenda has been abandoned. We must go back to the national agenda. What we see now is a partisan agenda. What we see now is a personal agenda. What we see now is a conflation of the party and the state. The state is the common denominator. The parties are the numerator factors. We must all go to the dam called the state, which is ourselves together. But we can't go there and say this party, ZANU-PF, is the only one that defines the state. The state must also be accessible to MDC or any other political party that is out there, including the party led by my brother Muteki. So it's important for us to all understand that our foundation was wrong. We started on a good note, but the narrative was not inclusive. It's so exclusive, we don't believe in collective debate. That's why you see Pollard being a platform is not as inclusive as it's supposed to be, because it must be on the basis of shared values, shared understanding, not imposed by one party or one person. We cannot have one person who is a choir master, the rest of the people being the choir. Let us be equals as we do things. Genuine dialogue to resolve our issues. That is where we must be going. Yes, I must also indicate that it is a travesty of justice that we have many Zimbabweans in the diaspora now in a free Zimbabwe than we had during the colonial state. That tells you that we are indeed free but not free. We are indeed independent but not independent. It tells you that something is wrong in Harare, something is wrong in Ulawai, something is wrong in Masvingo, something is wrong in Bindura, something is wrong in Chinoi, something is wrong in Binga. We need to correct all these problems, and to correct them, we must go back to the framework and the foundation, which was bad, wrong, but can be sorted out. We've killed our institutions, we've invented bad values, entitlement politics, indakaita zvakati, kana usina kurwa hondo, haugoni kutaura anything. That cannot be. Hondo was a collective project. It was our war together. It was not a war for self. and not for others. Patronage politics, wakavoterani, mareserve mdrukunzwa kana usina kuchivotera zanu usina kadri musangano wezanu PF, awani chikafu, politicizing and weaponizing our food. We cannot do that. We must go back to where we were, fighting in the liberation struggle together as a people. You know that on the economic front, we were indeed the doyen, the jewel, the shining star of the continent. But we've gone backwards. In terms of agriculture, we've become a basket case from being a breadbasket. Our health, we now seek treatment in China. We no longer trust our institutions. And I want to thank the latest development, whereas there is always a silver lining in any dark cloud. Whereas it is not good that we have this virus upon us, it has also been a rude awakening, a rude and a shocking development for those who cannot now travel because we cannot fly, so we have to all focus on building our own institutions. I hope that that will continue to be our default setting and our narrative as we deal with our issues. Yes, I've already indicated to you that the years we have gone past have been years of dilemma, years of suffering, years of losses. Just remember, yesterday we used to have this Air Zimbabwe as one of the best airlines. But guess what? We are now far worse. Ethiopian Airlines is now taking the position that we used to take way back. Our Zupo, we used to have what was called omnibus. You know, people would have, and they would know that we're going to be picked up by such and such a time. Those are the days, and that is what we must be able to go back to. On the balance, what is it that we're supposed to do? We must refocus ourselves, particularly on rural development. Look at how we've marginalized the people in the rural areas. People in the rural areas were basically the bearers of this struggle. They were the stadium of this liberation project, but they don't have much. We still have mud huts, those grass-thatched huts. We have not done much. The townships that were there during Smith's time are the ones that are still there. If Smith were to resurrect today and go to Shirugwi, you will not get lost. You will go to the townships that he knew, because nothing has changed. We need to do more and more in terms of changing the fortunes of our people. Our country's performance on the balance of probabilities and also reflecting on the 40 years that we've assessed as the basis of our developments and also the retrogression. There are key national grievances that are supposed to be dealt with. And these ones are and were actually the reason for the issue behind the national liberation struggle. First, we have to finally and fundamentally deal with the land question to reclaim the people's land rights. And I've already adverted to this. We need to address the national question to unify the country, but also to address the grievances of those who feel marginalized. The national question is very important. The vision for our country. It must not be a party vision, but the vision of all the people in Zimbabwe, churches included, getting our traditional leaders to be part of it, civil society, our traditional partners, particularly in the continent. We have to make sure that they all become part of the shared vision that we have, not just for Zimbabwe, but also for Africa. We also need labor to be part of that, to make sure that we are including everyone, to build what I've called the Team Zimbabwe project. We need to make sure that we do what has to be done in terms of moving forward. Resources we have, capacity we have experts in our midst. We have played pivotal roles in national healing in other jurisdictions. The third issue we must deal with is the democratic question. The democratic question must be resolved to ensure that every Zimbabwean is given one man, one vote, the right to vote. It's a traverse of justice that 40 years down the line, we dispute about elections. Elections are supposed to be an event. Then we move to the process of development, to the process of addressing our issues. Why should we continue to be perennially locked in the electoral mode? Right now, I see some already saying we're focusing on 2023. Let me tell you this. We are doing an injustice to our independence. 2023 will not resolve our issues if we have not addressed the issues that we're supposed to address in 2018, in 2013, in 2005, in 2008, when we had our elections. We must have a conversation on the resolution of our problems, having reforms that will address comprehensive reforms that are agreed by Zimbabweans. We can't have this syndrome. Vana mainini havadyi, usicheta. Nyika yakakura, nyika musha, tinofana kudya tose, tinofana kubatana tose. This journey was a shared journey. This struggle was a shared struggle. And of course, the fruits of the independence must be a shared enjoyment of our fruits. The fourth issue we must be able to deal with is addressing the sovereignty question, which is the essence of our national independence, to ensure that sovereignty belongs to all the people, not just a few individuals. Kwete zvemashefu zvekuti ava ipofu, munhu wese anofana kurangarira kuonekwa nenyaya national sovereignty. Look at what is happening. A lot of people have said, Chamisa, what are you saying about sanctions? What are you people saying about sanctions who are fighting for democracy? Yes, sanctions must go and go yesterday. But sanctions do not go on their own because it's not a demon. They go on account of what we do or don't do. And we must correct the things that we can control. We must be able to address issues of deficits in our promise, the liberation promise, around good governance, around human rights. Once we deal with those, we can confront any person and any force and mobilize them, persuade them, influence them, and also get them to be persuaded to know that we need friendship. Because you can't force friendship. There are rules, there are terms. That is the basis, that is the benchmark. And you know that we have to look at values that are shared. Those values we have on our own, without any outsider imposing them on us. The land reform, as I have already indicated, is now irreversible. And notwithstanding the fact that the implementation had gaps, left a lot to be desired, going forward, there is just need for a radical transformation by our generation, the next generation, the transformation generation, in terms of leadership, to rationalize the land tenure issues, and to give title deeds to those who deserve, promote productivity, and also compensate those who have to be compensated. On the national question, Zimbabweans today, as I indicated, are more divided than they were in 1980. The liberation struggle is indeed a national question that has not been resolved. And this is why I have already indicated what we have to do and what we must do. The nation needs a radical transformation going forward, and we need to transform fundamentally our electoral politics so that we move beyond just disputes in elections, so that elections become an icing on the cake of the marketplace of ideas. Let the best idea fly, and let those ideas that are dimming our chances as a country lie and lie forever. Rest in peace. So we have to go back to the issue of sovereignty and make sure that the sovereignty is a new paradigm. It's not state sovereignty, it's the sovereignty of the people. We need to radically transform that when we have institutions in the state, their master is not the state in itself, but it is the people. It is not the president of a government of the day. It is the people. The constitution is a product of the people. The courts are a product of the people. Parliament is a product of the people. The president and cabinet are a product of the people. They are the masters of the commissions. And therefore we must move away from state sovereignty to people sovereignty. I've said the next level of our attack is to radically change things so that we look back over the 40 years, especially the focus on the last 2 decades. A milestone that we rightly commemorate with mixed fortunes and as a mixed bag. We've made some strides, but we've failed in a fundamental and big way. We have an opportunity to have a new beginning. And it's not just only possible, it is coming. And I can see it, I can sense it, I can smell it, I can sense it, that we're going to go where we are going to do things in a different way. This coming decade, which is an important decade for us. For this to happen, it must call for each and every one of you to play a part. I hear you saying, tipe signal wachamisa. Signal inobva kumunhu weZimbabwe achirakidza kuti ari kunzwisisa kwatiri. One person can never be a force. We all become a force when we are united and together. And this is not parties. This is not MDC. This is not ZANU-PF. This is Zimbabwe. This is our democratic project. This is our transformation project on the foundation of our liberation project. And this is why we must behold the new and start to construct as a way forward, a way and a dialogue that is going to locate exit points to our crisis, to make meaning to our independence, and to reward our war veterans. We must begin to immortalize the liberation project. We must begin to have a liberation museum in this country, where true history is recorded, true history is archived, We must have reward to our war veterans. Why should our war veterans go to hospitals and not be treated free? Why should our war veterans not have proper and good packages in the local authorities for housing, so that at least there is a decent life for them, and of course all other Zimbabweans have also to be remembered in that regard. So what is the way forward in terms of our commemoration of this independence? We must construct a vision for the future. As you know, in 10 years' time, this coming decade is going to be a transformation decade. We're going to be celebrating our 50 years, which is a golden jubilee. We can't celebrate a golden jubilee when we are in Zimbabwe ruins. We have to celebrate the golden jubilee with gold in our hands, with gold in our pockets, with gold in our country, with gold in our cities. So that's why we need to make sure that when we get to 2030, which is basically a benchmark of our golden jubilee, we have to go there with the understanding that we have managed to unlock the full value around transformation, the full value around economic prosperity, the full value around social services. That's why I've said we need spaghetti roads, we need bullet trains, we need airports in various districts. We need to make sure that we build new industries, new factories in the districts of our country, new cities and new towns. We need to make sure that we run a digital government, a smart government, smart cities, smart towns. We need to move and deliver digital health. That is the future. Embracing the Internet of Things, technologies, fourth industrial revolution, so that we are able to leverage on the democratic project, on the liberation project, and then we escalate it to the next task of our generation, transformation, and making sure that we also democratize our issues around where we are going. I must also say that as a way forward, we are also pushing for the transformation not only of the way we govern, but also the way we do politics. We must move away from slogans that speak to oppression, slogans that speak to violence. We must have change of values. We must have change of culture in our governance, respecting the rule of law, respecting human rights, emphasizing constitutionalism, ensuring the independence of our institutions, respecting our military and our police services, our intelligence services, our prison services, to do what they know best, serving their country, and restore the pride that is associated with serving your own nation. That is what we want to see. We need to transform our industry, industrialization and productivity, innovating and exporting. We need to begin to build that which is going to make our country different. Build strong institutions, build strong ideas, transformation of our infrastructure. We must have key things that are going to change the country. Have more dams, make sure that Zimbabwe becomes a green belt, not to continue to suffer and cry about drought. We have enough time to plan. We know that we're a drought-prone country. We must then have drought coping mechanisms, and that can only be possible upon planning. Energy, moving solar, making sure that our rural communities are given the smart villages, building on infrastructure, water, energy, communications, transport in the countryside. Why should we continue to have gravel roads or unpaved roads in the countryside? That is archaic. We must move and modernize our communities and homesteads. We must change our values, reigniting the spirit of Ubuntu, halting the decades of decadence, and restoring the dignity and pride of our country. Simple things first. Let us make sure that we restore our mojo as a people. A united people can never be defeated. A united Zimbabweans can never be defeated. We were together, united, in our different shades of opinion, in our different political stripes. Some in ZAPU, some in ZANU, some even in Frolis, some in the various other formations, trade unionists and other groups. But we managed to win together. If we are able to come together again, we will be able to have this transformation promise and project successful. Welcome to the next decade, the decade of success, the decade of transforming, the decade of building, the decade of uniting, the decade of moving forward, the decade of the next generation. We are the next generation. Our forebears did their bit. Those who are in the 60s, 70s must now rest. They've done a good job. We must now be able to do our turn. They must allow us to do what we have to do and know best, we will be able to get there. Zimbabweans, change is coming. Change is upon us. This is a crossover moment. This is a takeoff moment. This is the decade upon us. Let's lead together. Let's show love. Let's show peace. Let's be united. Let's resolve all our questions. I'm ready, as I indicated, to work with my colleagues in ZANU-PF to resolve the problems affecting our country. There's no need for us to go down the road of intolerance, violence, or anarchy in order for us to resolve our issues. We can resolve our issues in peace and build a great country, a country we are all proud of, a country we are going to bequeath to future generations. Let's do it. We can do it, and we shall do it. I want to thank you, Zimbabwe. Happy 40th Independence Day, Zimbabwe. God bless you. God bless Africa. God bless you and protect you in your homes as you stay away from the coronavirus.